Good evening and welcome to this planning committee where we have no public speakers today, with just one observer. Thank you. Can I have apologies for absence, please?
I've received apologies from Councillor Mackenzie Boyle, and I can see that Councillor Zahiruddin is online. Can you confirm you can hear us, Councillor Zahiruddin?
Yes, I am. Yes, I can hear. I'm there. Thanks.
I also had word that Councillor Barnard may be able to get here for the second item, but it's going to be late, unfortunately. That's everybody and those online. Yep, good. Minutes. To approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting of the committee held on the 13th of February. Oh, who's that? It's Jodie. Oh, sorry, another visitor. Yeah, okay. Thank you. So do you have any questions of accuracy for the minutes of the last meeting, please? No? Can I move that those be accepted as a correct record? Those in, do I have a seconder, please?
I'm happy to second, thank you.
Thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. Yeah, everybody. Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. Members, as usual, are asked to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or affected interests in respect of any matter to be considered at the meeting. I don't need to read the whole lot, do I? As usual, any interests, please, to declare? None? Thank you. Any urgent items of business?
No, non-notified, Chair.
That's good. Thank you. So to the first item of the evening, I think it's going to be Officer McKevitt. Thank you. Land at Buckhurst Moors Moor Lane, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Margaret McKevitt presenting this item. This application site, outlined in red, relates to a larger commercial site known as Buckhurst Moors, Binfield. The development site extends to approximately 3.7 hectares and comprises a group of single-storey buildings in commercial use, areas of hard standing, an unmade access road, Moor Lane, and a section of North View. The red line also contains land within the Persimmon Homes site, Amon Corner South, where the already accepted loop road, which runs through the site and to the north, and the link road will be located, connecting the site to the public highway at Cane Road. As members will be aware, as I believe they visited the site on Saturday, the site generally slopes downwards from north to south, and Riggs Copse, which is in the southeast of the site, is designated as ancient woodland and a local wildlife site, and it's also covered by a tree preservation order. Currently, vehicular access is from Cane Road roundabout via Beehive Road and North View, which are adopted highways, and then it presses along Moor Lane, an unadopted road, and past residential properties. Buckhurst Moors has quite a long planning history and contains lawful B2 and B8, which is industrial and storage use buildings, which operate from single-storey buildings on site. And to the north of the site is land owned by Persimmon Homes, the location of planning application 1800242 for mixed-use redevelopment of the site, which members may recall from an earlier planning committee meeting. The applicant seeks to redevelop the established commercial area within the red line, providing more attractive modern facilities following the demolition of existing units. The applicant has stated that in future they may wish to deliver more units on a larger site, an area west, is along here at the site. However, this is not part of this application, and although it is shown on these plans indicative only, it's not part of this permission. The development will consist of 4 shallow pitched roofed commercial buildings which will subdivide into 8 units with approximately 5,200 square metres of employment floor space across the site. And the units will vary in size from approximately 300 square metres to over 1,000 square metres. And the scheme also provides on-site parking, turning and cycle spaces. The applicant proposes to deliver vehicular, cycle and pedestrian linkages with the wider allocated site in accordance with the saved site allocations local plan policy SA8 for land Amen Corner South. As you can see here, this road running through here was also indicated within the Amen Corner South site. Obviously, this site and the Amen Corner South site were part of the comprehensive site on SA8. The applicant also intends to deliver part of the wider loop road within the site, which is the loop road here, which then progresses into the residential area, and that allows an accessible link through the commercial site in a loop to the western boundary. And this internal loop road could be delivered in a phased manner, so that if the further commercial development comes ahead, that it will be served from the existing road if it's permitted under this site. And currently, Buckhurst Moors is accessed from Cane Road via Northview and Moor Lane, where there are a number of residential properties. This application seeks to stop up the top of Moor Lane, around here. Okay. So commercial traffic to this site would no longer access us via Moor Lane and instead accesses the commercial site via the newly built, more appropriate access road through the Persimmon site, as shown in pink there. Northview residents will continue to access their properties as they do now. However, they will be located within a cul-de-sac. Any remaining properties on Moor Lane and small businesses such as Sanctuary Barn will achieve vehicular access via the Persimmon Home Site Loop Road into Buckhurst Moors and then north onto the part of Moor Lane that will exist with a turning head at the top. So the road will be stopped there, so Northview would access to Cane Road there, and then the Moor Lane properties on here would access into the site and up through the road here, so that commercial traffic to the site would no longer go past these residential properties. And the site plan here shows that each of the units has its own parking and loading bays areas, all served within the access road, and as it's seen here, that the road here at the end can be continued if the remaining part of the commercial site is brought forward. And the units are shown to be modern 1 and 2 single-storey buildings, which is seen to be a visual improvement to the existing site. Members are directed to the supplementary report, which includes updates to the paragraphs and to the required 106 heads of terms, which are largely to do with the highway requirements. There are also amendments to conditions, and additional conditions have been provided. And as an update, since the preparation of the supplementary report, there are changes to Condition 2 to remove the tree protection plan from the proposed approved plans, and to add a new condition requiring tree protection plans to be submitted for approval, so that they can more accurately reflect the extent of hedging which is to be retained along Moor Lane. Just show some photos of the area. This is a view north along Beehive Road towards the Cane Road roundabout. And this is due south. This is the junction of Northview and Southview from Beehive Road. And if we progress there, these are cottages on Northview. And then progress through. This is a view from outside of the Sanctuary Barn. It's looking north along Moor Lane. And here, this is a south along Moor Lane with Sanctuary Barn here on the left, and Riggs Copse, the woodland, can be seen in the distance here. And these are the properties that would no longer have the commercial vehicles to Buckhurst Moors travelling in front of them. As you can see, it is an unmade and unadopted road. And further south here, looking towards Sanctuary Barn. And a view west from Moor Lane of the entrance to Buckhurst Moors site, with the original owner's dwelling there in the distance. And this is the same dwelling, which I believe is to be retained, an existing storage and distribution facility on the site. And this is a further view showing the storage and distribution facility and other units on the site to the west. And this is Unit 18A and the dwelling Buckhurst Moors there. Back. And further views from within the site. So to conclude, Chair, the proposal has been assessed against development plan policies as set out in the main report. The proposed commercial redevelopment on the saved SALP policy SA8 allocated site for mixed-use development is considered to be acceptable in principle, and this includes the acceptance of a sequential test raising no bar to development on flood risk grounds. The scheme appropriately considers the required comprehensive development of the wider allocated site and by facilitating the linkages to and within the site. The proposed modernisation of the site involving the replacement of the buildings with a layout more sympathetic than the existing provides an improvement in terms of appearance of the site. The proposal provides an opportunity to improve living conditions of residents on Northview and Moor Lane, as the current access road to the commercial site is unsuitable for the type and volume of traffic proposed, and currently there's a limited pedestrian access. It's also acceptable biodiversity enhancements and B&G measures have been proposed. The scheme would not increase the likelihood of flooding, and it would provide safe and suitable vehicular and pedestrian access to and from the site, and there's acceptable on-site parking and turning provisions, and it would not significantly affect the living conditions of current and future residents. In light of the above, it is recommended that the Assistant Director Planner be authorised to approve the application, subject to the completion of a Section 106 agreement and conditions set out in the report, in the supplementary report, and also in the verbal update tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Questions for the officer, anybody? Councillor Virgo.
Thanks, Chairman, very much. Margaret, it's probably for James, but I'll go through you. 934, I see, it says signage will be required along the new section of internal loop road, providing by the site to direct drivers. I suppose, I don't know this that well, although we did have a site visit, and I'm grateful for that because we wouldn't have really understood this at all, I don't think. But, you know, would it, James, I mean, obviously the residents are worried that it will go on, you know, HGVs will still go on that road. Am I right in saying that's their concern, isn't it? If that is true, I'll finish it and then. I'm just wondering whether we should narrow that so that HGVs cannot go on that road rather than signage, because I know lots of people in this country don't take any notice of signs whatsoever.
Through you, Chair, I'll try and answer that for Councillor Virgo. In relation to the signage point is there twofold. It's to try and ensure that the traffic coming from the new development heads right out of the site and goes up the new road that you can see in pink there. In terms of activity levels going through, I think what you were describing, the previous Moor Lane and possibly Northview, what you haven't got on this plan, but you may recall if you were at the committee for the residential site adjacent, which was heard a few months ago, I think, is that Northview itself has its new junction onto the new spine road that you can just about see on the northern half of that plan. And there'll be also signage there to deter and clearly indicate that industrial traffic heading to this part of this, well, to this site, this part of the overall site, will be directed to the next junction along. So the commentaries around that, and obviously you've heard from the officer in relation to trying to further restrict Northview and the provision of turning heads on Northview and Moor Lane to further provide Northview with elements to be able to safely turn. So in that regard, I wouldn't be expecting further industrial traffic, but the signage point in the report is there to try and focus traffic coming to that development, turning right out and then north again through the pink road on the previous plan. I think you were talking about trying to narrow. Obviously where that would be is another matter, and we don't have that in front of us, but we have to be mindful that there will still be some day-to-day delivery, or people having parcels delivered to the houses on Moor Lane and things like that. So you need to be mindful of that. Traffic may not be at the same sort of industrial level or scale as a B2, B8 or B1 site that you're looking at now, but there'll still be those operations that will need to be there. So we need to be mindful about that. But through the process that we will do, if this is allowed through adopting the new loop road, we will go through a process of evaluating all that we can. And I think we feel that you can do that better through directing people through the appropriate signage to try and direct people back out to the road. So I personally don't think there will be a significant issue of heavy vehicles coming past those Moor Lane and Northview, because the nature of the roads are changing, and only vehicles wishing to go down there will choose to pass along it.
Could I have a supplementary, please?
Yes, please.
The only thing I'd be concerned of, there's a question I understand, not a statement, is all these things are great, but I'm just thinking of the residents, that's all. And we must be absolutely minded that, people don't use shortcuts and they just ignore all that and they just continue to go down there because it's quicker, or there's a traffic jam the other end, or do you know what I mean? So it's really important, I think, we look after those residents with the change of traffic. And maybe we could just see how it goes, as it were.
Through you, Chair. Yes, absolutely. And part of the main thrust of the previous application that you discussed, which includes the link road for the housing site, very much does that. It removes and alters the way Northview is currently. You drove down there on Saturday and you saw what the site was like, and you've seen it in the photos. That will change. Northview will have its own junction onto a new spine road. So at the moment, vehicles have no other choice. But the environment in which drivers will arrive at those sites, it will be very clear that that route is not suitable. Plus, we're also looking at doing alterations to restrict that route for vehicles, so that Northview will be segregated and Moor Lane will be segregated. So the route itself will look different and operate different to the traffic that you might be concerned could use it. Further supplemented by signage to support those drivers to direct them to the appropriate place.
Yes, go ahead.
Could we go to sewage? I notice, I think we raised this on the recce actually, that apparently Thames Water have no idea at the moment, which gives us great confidence, doesn't it? Could we not, on a planning, say we'd like some details of that, please? Could we not just kick them a bit and say, Margaret, you'd be very good at this.
Thank you. To you, Chair. There is a condition going back, and yes, of course, we do advise applicants to approach Thames Water in advance, but we said that this application has been in a little while. We now do seek that we get that agreement in advance, but at the time we didn't. But we do have the condition to control that, but I hear what you're saying.
And you'll be in charge of that. You can see that all happens and there's some tie-up.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Penfold.
I read that nothing can happen on the site until the sort of Relief Road or the Persimmon Road is actually built. Is that correct? So no demolition can happen, or no?
To you, Chair. Yes, it is intended, and the legal agreement will confirm that that road has to be in place. It will have to be in place to allow for construction works to take place.
And demolition too?
Yes.
So
no works on site unless...
What actually happens with the people who are in those tumble-down sheds and things, but who seem to have thriving businesses? Are the businesses just going to have to close down, or will they be offered places in a new, or suggested, or...
To
And
use-
all the buses that are parked there.
Yeah, through the Chair, obviously it is expected that notice would be given them that they would be emptied before work start on site, and that does allow options either later when the site is redeveloped or elsewhere for units to be offered, but it can't be part of the planning application to rehouse existing business. I don't sympathise with that, yes.
Thank you. I thought it probably wasn't, but I'd ask.
Thank you. Councillor Temperton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is sustainable construction and climate change. It says 9.66, a planning condition is recommended to ensure compliance with policy LP 55 of the BFLP. But policy 55 says that it will meet any such non-residential development to meet BREEAM excellent or equivalent standards unless it can be clearly demonstrated that this is not viable. In such cases, development will meet BREEAM very good standard. So can you please tell me, when it says 966, a planning condition is recommended to ensure compliance, what are we complying to? Very good standard or excellent standard?
Through you, Chair?
Yes,
Yes, members will be aware that condition 31 on the agenda seeks excellent BREEAM standard. So that would be the starting point. As you correctly identified, Councillor Templeton, in the policy there is a potential for that to be relaxed in questions of viability, but the starting point would be the wording of the condition that it does seek excellence in terms of the BREEAM.
Anyone else? Or shall I put one in, please? About the Network Rail business, they're worried about the flooding eroding their embankment. And it says in the condition, no, it's somewhere, where did it say, that they've withdrawn their objection or something, but actually in their letter that's in the list of documents, it suggests a condition with wording to, oh dear, shall I read it out? The suggested condition from Network Rail is development shall not commence until full details of the drainage design, including confirmed levels design, construction details and modelled results for all storms up to and including the 1 in 100-year storm plus climate change, have been submitted and approved in writing by Network Rail. The plans must also include confirmation of how runoff from the site will be managed during construction to ensure there's no increased risk to the railway. Reason to ensure the railway is protected during and post-development of the site. But that doesn't appear, I don't think, does it?
Through you, Chair, if I could possibly respond to that. So I think that there are two elements of that condition, and they've been picked up by other conditions on the agenda. So to pick up the second point first, condition 8, which is the SEMP, specifically requires details of the control of surface water runoff during demolition and construction.
Yeah.
And then I believe that the other requirements, although they've been worded in a slightly different format, it's consistent with the recommendation from the LLFA, and that's condition 14, which is basically saying that no development can be commenced until details of the surface water drainage system have how it's going to be designed, managed and maintained has been submitted and approved by the local planning authority.
Does it refer back to Network Rail, because they asked that it be approved in writing by Network Rail?
Through you, Chair, yes, I don't think it's necessary for that to be included in the condition because Network Rail wouldn't be the approving body for a condition discharge. It's the local planning authority who would be the body that approves it, and that's referenced in the condition. However, I think in light of that consultation response, it would be a matter that we would consult them on.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. That's very reassuring. Anyone else have any points to raise? Any questions at all? I was wondering why the opening to Moor Lane is right next to the industrial estate instead of up the top, so that, you know, they're isolated from the industrial, but that's, I don't know if it's road safety or what. Is there a question, may I?
I think what you're asking is why are they coming in from the bottom and going up instead of why are they coming in from the top? Well, it is very much for that point, and I think it picks up on what Councillor Virgo said earlier. It is, we're trying to segregate to ensure that the industrial traffic doesn't seek to come down there. It is not too far out of the way, and actually the road network serving those dwellings, going effectively through the pink road on the plan earlier that Margaret had on the screen. That doesn't mean that pedestrians and cycle activity is precluded. Clearly people and pedestrians and cycles can come down more North View and walk through any restriction from the road that's being proposed in the Persimmon housing scheme and come north to south. It is just the vehicular element and also the provision of turning heads and things like that needed to be considered, and trying to get those at suitable locations where they could be provided on land that was in the applicant's control as well. So overall we don't feel it's detrimental, and actually it'll probably operate better for those people there.
Do hope so. Thank you very much for that. Have you had communication with the people that live there about it? Have they commented on the...
In relation to the application, I couldn't confirm. I'm sure they've responded or made representations on the application. Historically, there's been comments made by residents in the locality around other matters, but I can't comment on necessarily this application. But certainly having the road or the new road moved away from their properties is of a wider benefit.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Virgo again.
Another question. Solar cells on these buildings. I mean, will that happen? I think we mentioned it, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
If so, could we ask for that?
Not specifically raised through your chair. Obviously, we're seeking BREEAM excellence, and as part of that submission, that could be something that's
Could
submitted.
we push it?
We don't generally prescribe in advance what is required to meet them. It's the standard of excellence that we're looking for, rather than prescribing to people how to do that.
I do understand that, but if we're building new things and they're supposed to be now for 2025, we should have solar cells on the top.
It just wouldn't
Sorry,
like to preclude something that might have more, that might be more effective on meeting excellence. Not being an expert, I wouldn't know if that was the only and best way of meeting that. It's a more visible means, but whether that's the only way forward, that's something that perhaps would be submitted rather than prescribing a solution when we haven't seen the rest of packages to meet that standard, perhaps.
The only reason, sorry interrupting you, the only reason I would mention it is a flat roof, isn't it? It's just slightly flat. I mean, it's perfect. Could we investigate that as come back to the committee?
Through you, Chair, could I make a suggestion that perhaps we include an informative to the effect that we would welcome the provision of solar cells on the roof as part of the BREEAM excellence?
Deal.
Thank you.
That's very good. Anything else? No? Okay, so I move that we accept the recommendation at page whatever it was, sorry, page 33 of the agenda pack. Is it 33? Yes, it is. And the amendment to recommendation, thank you, Vice Chair, on page 2 of the supplementary report. Sorry? Oh, and the verbal one, yes. Thank you. Somebody's got their brain. Do I have a seconder for that, please?
Councillor Collins, I'm happy to second.
Thank you very much. So, any comments, please? Any debating? Are we happy to accept it with the information we've just been given?
I'd just like to say I think it's a really good thing, to be honest, because it gives us more industrial units, and it looked a pretty sound plan. So thank you to the people who did it.
Yes, this seems to have been hatching for quite a while and lots of changes happened. So very good that it's finally come to us, and I hope it is a huge success. But shall we take a vote? Those in favour?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Good. And the second item on our agenda, second application on our agenda is the energy fitness application. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, councillors. So, Shelley Clark speaking. I'm the planning officer. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let's do this from the beginning. Okay, so this application has been reported to the planning committee as it has received 6 objections. It is a Section 73 application to vary the opening hours of an existing gym, Energy Fitness, which is located adjacent to the Aldi supermarket at 392 Yorktown Road, College Town. Okay. Currently, opening hours are 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday to Friday, and 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturday, Sunday and public holidays. The proposal is for 24-hour opening, 7 days a week. The principle of the use as a gym has already been established under the 2020 planning permission, which approved the subdivision of the previous Waitrose store into Aldi and Energy Fitness. Of consideration, therefore, is the impact of the 24-hour use on highway safety and neighbouring properties in terms of any increased noise. The character of the area can be described as mixed use with residential above commercial units along Yorktown Road and residential areas to the southeast, south and southwest of the car park. The closest residential properties and the closest noise-sensitive receptors are to the southeast of the car park in Cavendish Park, which is a mobile home park. I'm going to do here. Okay, so here you can see the closest noise-sensitive receptor, Cavendish Park, and obviously the gym here and the large car park. So 2 noise assessments have been submitted with this application, one in connection with any potential noise from inside the gym, and one for any potential noise outside of the gym and within the car park. The initial noise assessment concluded that there would be no breakout noise from inside the gym. The second assessment concluded that due to background noise, the number of expected users, low vehicle speeds, and the distance of the car park from the nearest noise-sensitive receptors, any noise would be low and within the no observed effect level. Environmental Health have not objected to the application and considers that the assessments demonstrate that noise levels are predicted to be low, and while sound may be heard, this would not have an adverse noise impact. The Environmental Health Officer has explained that mobile homes at Cavendish Park may be more sensitive than traditionally constructed dwellings. However, the boundary between the car park and Cavendish Park is a solid wall interspersed with close boarding fencing, as you can see in the photograph. This will provide some protection from sound transmissions from activity within the car park. None of the mobile homes have windows with line of sight of the car park. Let me just do this. Do we have another one? The second noise assessment does, however, suggest maximising the spatial separation of the noise source and noise receptor by having a designated area of parking away from Cavendish Park, which will be more centrally located within the site. The parking bays in the centre of the car park will be used for nighttime users, with these here shown to be 50 metres away from Cavendish Park. The recommendation to approve therefore includes a condition requiring a car park management plan, which will require further details of this designated parking area, including details of its location and any directional signage to the parking spaces. The condition will also request details of measures that will be taken by Energy Fitness to inform its customers that this area is where they should park overnight. The condition also requires the applicant to submit details of CCTV and any other measures intended to prevent any misuse of the car park. The Highway Authority have recommended approval subject to the proposed car park management plan. So the gym has already been approved under the 2020 permission. This application seeks to vary its opening hours only. As it has been demonstrated that any noise associated with the 24-hour use of the gym will be low within the no observed effect level, the application is therefore recommended for approval subject to the aforementioned condition. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Questions for our officer, please. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Funnily enough, I'm very keen to have some input on a noise-related application. And I've reviewed the acoustic reports which have been submitted with the application in some detail, and I'm fairly comfortable with the Environmental Health Officer's conclusion that they're robust and do indicate no significant impact. It does occur to me that that assessment does rely to some extent on management of human behaviour, and particularly the behaviour of the clientele. I was wondering if the officer, or perhaps if we've got a member of the environmental health team on available, could maybe just to reassure the committee, just explain if there are issues with that down the line, because clients of the gym are not behaving in a sort of respectful manner at all times of night. What measures are available to us to manage and enforce against that kind of, in the worst case scenario that residents are obviously concerned about?
Okay, through you, Chair.
Thank you.
Certainly measures, certainly the condition will ask for more information about how the users will obviously know about where to park, the location. So obviously you will have that. Although the gym will not be manned, there will be a contracted company that will obviously manage the gym, and then of course can contact management. I believe there will also be a general manager who will be on call, obviously the 24/7. So obviously you will have those measures. But with regards to the enforcement, I think if Jodie is on the line, I thought she was before, but she is. Yes, good.
Hi, Jodie. Good.
Hello. Sorry. Yes, if there are any issues with the car park that aren't resolved with the parking in that area, then if complaints are received by environmental health, then there are options for us to take that further through our nuisance powers with the gym and with their sort of car park management.
Thank you. Councillor Fogo.
Can I just take up my colleague's point? The trouble is we're taking action in the way that we do, it takes a hell of a long time. You need evidence, and the thing falls apart, actually. And I did think we discussed, I hope this is going to be a question, don't worry, it's not. We did discuss on the site that we could put a review, however we're going to do this, because it's a kind of licensing thing, isn't it, this really? Like we would go with the pub opening hours, really, in a sense. And we would review that, say, 6 months later to see that the management company is indeed doing its job. Because the trouble is with the way it's done, you know, you ring someone, there's no one there, the management's changed, and it goes on and on and on in this nation. And I'm just wondering why we can't put some kind of review of the planning application if we think that things are going awry.
Would you like to?
Through you, Chair. Yes, the only possible way of doing that would be to grant the planning permission for a temporary period. Officers haven't recommended that because we don't believe it's necessary. We believe that on the basis of the noise information that's been submitted, and as the case officer has said, subject to us having a car park management plan which includes details of the measures in terms of preventing antisocial behaviour, and that would have the sort of the management details in it. We consider that that would be sufficient, and as the environmental health officer has indicated, there are additional powers. However, if members were very concerned about it, that would be the mechanism by which you could do that. You could grant the planning permission for a 1-year period, and then that would require the applicants to come back and to reapply in a year's time, and we would be able to do that assessment. I mean, members will probably want to be aware of the fact that we are requiring certain sort of infrastructure to be installed, for example, the CCTV, or that there is a cost associated with them implementing that. So, which would, you know, obviously influence their decision as to whether or not they would want to implement a 1-year permission. But that would be the mechanism by which the committee could do it.
Could I just ask another question, please, supplementary to that? If we did decide to put it a condition on a temporary basis of, I would say 6 months myself, I think a year is too long personally, it is quite easy, if we have no problems with that, for the applicant just to say, I'd like to prolong it, and we can give permission. I mean, it's not a huge thing, is it? But it does give us a break that is the problem. Because the trouble is with the CCTV, of course, they're not working on that particular night. They haven't got the data. You know, it goes on. And I think, if I may say so, to park at 3 o'clock in the morning, people would just park as close as they can to the facility, really, to be honest. Because I would, you know, because you. But the onus is on, is it not on the building to make sure that people obey the regulation, but there's a fallback for residents.
Through you, Chair, if I could just clarify one point that Councillor Virgo makes in terms of the process. They would need to reapply, so they would need to make another planning application.
But Joe, the point I'm trying to make, it shouldn't be long-winded. I mean, it's just an extension of the hours. I mean, you know, it shouldn't be too bureaucratic.
Yes, I understand that point. I was just making the point that it is a formal process that they need to go through, so there are certain requirements that they would need to meet in order for us to determine that application.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Just following on from some of Councillor Virgo's points. Firstly, I was just wondering if it might be possible to request when the management plan is submitted, because a lot of this, that seems quite key to this, whether that might be able to be referred to committee at that point. And then secondly, I was just wondering whether there's anything we might be able to do with the condition to maybe, whilst granting permission, leave that management plan as something that's subject to review after a time period or something, rather than a temporary permission, but just gives us some handle on that management plan if we find in 6 months or a year's time that maybe it's not working effectively.
What do you think?
Yes, so I think that would be a possibility.
I think we'd have to give thought to the wording of that amended condition, but I think in principle there would be no issue with that, as that we could certainly do it on that basis, yes.
That'd be very, very sensible. Yeah. Anyone else have queries? No?
I got a question, Chair,
Oh,
online.
hello, we can't see you, but yes, go ahead, Naz.
Thank you, Chair. So has the concern regarding late evening meetings in the car park is one of a bigger issues in that area, in Sandhurst, Oldsmore, and College Town, in other facilities. That's a genuine concern. So I was just wondering if an option of closing down perhaps a couple of lanes in the front through an additional barriers was ever considered, where the entries can happen only in the middle lane where the marking with blue color is highlighted. So has that option ever been considered in this process?
Through you, Chair. Well, obviously, the condition will certainly say where the location is going to be, and obviously we'll be requesting details of the signage to make sure they park there. The gym will then obviously be providing their own information to their customers as to where to park, signs inside the gym. So again, we have considered that, obviously, those measures to be appropriate and sufficient. We haven't explored, obviously, the idea of actually separating off those other lanes. I think it would depend on the one-way system, the system of the arrows, whether we could actually do that. James, have you got any thoughts?
I'll try and add to that through you, Chair. Yes, obviously it depends what's submitted in terms of closing lanes down. I think Council was asked about closing lanes. I think you'd also have to be mindful about what you'd expect to be in that car park associated with this application at that time of the night or through the night. And that too would have some bearing on the effectiveness of any restriction to parking bays, because obviously if there's hardly any cars in there, cars would drive through potentially any gaps. So I think the principle is something that's possible, but the plan for submitting, I think you have a condition that requires that information of the car park management. Those spaces have been shown, I know, on that plan as a distance. If that's the ultimate position, I don't know if the condition allows flexibility for alternative parking that is obviously further or as far enough away from the receptor that is shown there, the 50 metres. But I don't believe, I'm not aware of any other further consideration of restricting the car park further than that.
Through you, Chair, no. I mean, those are the proposed measures, and then obviously the 50 metres is considered an appropriate distance to make sure that there's no noise impact on that on Cavendish Park.
Thank you. Councillor Virgo. Oh, so Councillor Collins first. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned low usage. Did the applicant give any indication of how many people they might be expecting overnight, so we know what sort of number of cars are anticipated?
Sorry, through you, Chair. Right, I'm actually looking at the initial noise assessment here. It does... Right, if you can bear with me. Maybe is it that one? Okay, in the noise assessment, the second noise assessment, it says potentially 15 to 20 customers expressing interest to use the gym during the night. although, and it says here, although 50 to 20 people have expressed an interest, this does not mean they intend to use the gym 7 nights a week. Yeah, at the same time.
Do you have further question?
Yeah, just as a supplementary to that, I think there was mention that other 24-hour gyms in Bracknell have been considered. Has there been any nuisance at any of those?
I'm not sure if Jodie is still on the line, whether she actually knows the situation with those other gyms. Certainly there are other 24-hour gyms. There's Snap Fitness in Sandhurst, and also, I believe, the Beneficial House, where you have the gym on the ground floor with the residential apartments above. Anyway, I will let Jodie speak.
I think you've probably covered it quite well. There's Village Gym, there's 2 Snap Fitness, and there is, I think it was the gym that's underneath, I think it is Benefit House, and all of those are 24-hour gyms with similarly surrounded by residential dwelling car parks, and none of those have had any noise nuisance complaints.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Thank you.
Councillor Virgo.
Ask one more question. Councillor Smith's point about a review or an assessment of what's going on after 3 months or 6 months to Shelley. Could you tell the committee what powers we would have if things went awry at that point? Because we don't have any, do we? Apart from going back to, you know, PPP and saying environmental, come and sort it out.
Through you, Chair, I was just looking at how we could redraft the condition, perhaps to cover the issues that you mentioned. My suggestion, just off the top of my head, is that we add point D to the points that are already included in condition 3, which basically seeks a review mechanism which will be enacted in the event that complaints are received, giving details of any amended measures that would be installed in order to address those issues. Something like that. Because then if we have the review mechanism within the condition, then obviously we can look again in terms of the measures that have been installed, any kind of mitigation measures, and then if we approve those and there's fundamentally a breach, then we can take enforcement action against that. And then it's a belt and braces approach, because obviously that gives us the opportunity for planning enforcement, but also there always remains the enforcement of the nuisance legislation under environmental health.
That's very, very good, thank you. Any other questions? No? Right. Shall we take that amendment now? No, we've got to move the first one, yes, sorry. It forced me to move that we accept the recommendation at page 53, I think, and the supplementary. No, there isn't anything in the supplementary at the moment. But, the recommendation at page 53 that we accept as we've been given. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Virgo.
Chair, can I just confirm that's with the proposed amended language to condition 3 as the Assistant Director has suggested?
I think Jamie might be able to advise. I think you have to move the motion initially, which you have done, and Councillor Virgo has seconded, and then I think you have to propose an amendment to that motion. Councillor Smith, please. Thank you.
Lovely. So, yes, Councillor Smith.
I'd like to propose an amendment.
Well, I never. Good.
With regards condition 3, with the wording as proposed by the Assistant Director or equivalent as considered appropriate.
Thank you.
I'd like to second that.
Councillor Templeton seconds. Thank you.
Debate the amendment.
Yes, I will hang on a moment till you've finished scribbling and perhaps you can tell us what it says.
Yes, through you, Chair. I'm afraid I haven't amended it any further than what I've said just now. Do you want me to read it out again? Or you take it as read?
I think we're all happy that we understand the intent,
Yeah.
and
Yes,
we trust the
that's a good
Assistant
point.
Director to implement that as discussed.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So that's moved and seconded. Shall we vote on that?
Yes, or debate.
Debate,
amendment,
yes.
and then
Debate
you
the
can-
amendment.
And then you can vote on the amendment.
Gosh. Right. Councillor Temperton.
Well, I just think this is belt and braces, but I think it's important because it means we don't know what's going to happen there. Everybody's promising really good things, but we went on the site visit and it is quite close to houses and it's going to be slamming doors and it's going to be that. And so with the information, CCTV, on-call manager, and this as well, I think it's going to be acceptable. So I would suggest that the amendment is supported and then the whole thing can go ahead.
Thank you. I absolutely agree. We've done everything we can if we've got that. Anybody else? No? Councillor Smith.
Am I allowed to speak now? I'm slightly confused in the order.
It doesn't matter.
if you're happy, Chair, thank you. Yeah, I think obviously with anything like this, noise is a concern. As members will be aware, this is what I do professionally outside of my role in the council. It's a matter that I've pushed this council very hard on. I'm very pleased that we have some policy coming forwards very soon that's going to significantly strengthen our position on this. There's always a balance to be found here. Any change like this, there will inevitably be some level of noise that there wouldn't otherwise be. What's important is that proper processes and assessments are carried out to determine whether that is going to have an unreasonable impact on nearby residents. In this case, I think all the right hoops have been jumped through. I've reviewed those reports and I'm quite happy with the assessments outlined therein. Obviously, our environmental health team have, and their advice is the same. So I think we have good evidence here that there shouldn't be a significant noise impact on residents. And I'm very pleased with the proposed amendment and assistance from the Assistant Director with regard to the language on that as well. That just gives us a further lever such that actually if we do get a few months in and find that people are loitering and making a racket in the car park or driving in and out like hooligans and all these kind of things, that actually there is a mechanism there through which we can work with the gym operator to address those issues, potentially to require further mitigations for those issues, and we can do that in a way that I think here is very reasonable without having to sort of refuse a planning application or a temporary permission or anything like that. So I'm quite pleased with that proposal and thank those involved.
Thank you very much. That's really good. Does anybody else want to speak? We're all happy. Okay, shall we take a vote? Those in favour of the amended motion?
That's unanimous, so the amendment's
Thank you
passed.
very much. Well, that seems to be... Oh, no, forgotten that bit. Oh dear, I don't think I've ever had one of these before. Right, we have to debate the substantive motion. Okay. Councillor Temperton.
I move the vote be put.
Excellent. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Virgo. Second. Okay. Shall we take the vote?
That's unanimous, Chair, so it's carried.
Thank you so much. That's brilliant. And that is the end of our meeting this evening. What a quick one. And thank you for all the very interesting questions and everything. Could you just stay a bit quiet till we